Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be part of the Voices. So I'm Dr. Flavia Santos. I'm a UCD Adastro Fellow and Assistant Professor, and I'm a member of the Affective, Behavioral, and Cognitive Neuroscience group. I'm the director of the UCD Music and Math Cognition Lab. And my presentation is about the effects of musical training on children's mathematical learning. And why is this important? Because low numeracy has a long-lasting impact in development. It undermines economic, social, and psychological outcomes in adulthood. Individuals with low numeracy during childhood, when they become adults, they will have a higher risk for depression, lower occupational status, lower incomes, and trouble with authority. So we need interventions that will improve outcomes and allow a better development for those individuals. So the study one was the numeracy musical training applied for preschool children, aiming to stimulate numerical cognition. So we had two groups, experimental in black and controls in gray. The children were randomly assigned to those groups. They had a pre-test and a post-test. The control group had the business as usual, so only classes. The experimental group had the intervention, the numeracy musical training. So we had 47 Brazilian preschoolers, aged 5, boys and girls, all Portuguese speakers, no formal musical experience, and middle class from public school, a public school. The numeracy musical training had 8 sessions lasting 45 minutes and carry out in small groups. Each session had 3 components, 1 melodic, 1 rhythmic, and 1 pitch. And we had the 8 sessions, including the 4 components of numerical cognition. So the cardinal system, numerical verbal system, symbolic, and ordinal system. So 4 sessions had body and voice, and the other 4 sessions had musical instrument sounds. Results are very nice. We obtained near transfer, which means that we trained something related to mathematics and children improved in counting and addition and subtraction. So only the experimental group had an improvement from pre-test to post-test in those tasks. We also found a far transfer, so something not expected, an improvement in phonological memory. So only the experimental group improved from the pre-test to the post-test in this digital recall task. In the second study, we used the same intervention, but this time we had 3rd and 4th graders with low achievement, so with low numeracy skills. And the results are also very interesting. So in the left side, we see, in the left block, see children with low numeracy, so children with dyscalculia, and the performance in 2 tasks. In light gray, you see mental calculation, so the pre-test was lower than the post-test, so they increased the percentage of correct responses. And the same happened for the oral problems, which is the dark gray. So the pre-test was, there was an improvement from pre-test to post-test in this task, but only for the experimental group. The controls, they were already having a higher percentage of correct responses, and they didn't change with the intervention. And then the study 3, we were interested to see if there was a persistent effect of musical training in the activities. So in this study, we had no numerical components, just pure musical training. And again, we had children with low numeracy, and they were school children. So in this study, we had a baseline, mid-test, post-test, and follow-up. 7 sessions of melodic and 7 sections of rhythmic musical training, of course, counterbalanced. So half of the sample started by melodic and the other half started by the rhythmic. And the results are summarized on the right side in this graphic, where you can see in the legend on the bottom, baseline in dark purple, and then mid-test, post-test, and follow-up. And we can see, according to the asterisks, the functions that improved after intervention, but more importantly, for number production, number comprehension, and calculation, we could see that the performance on the baseline remain on the follow-up. So indicating that it really was a persistent effect. So it's something really good. And then it's just to let you know that I'm not alone in this. There are at least 3 huge systematic reviews confirming the same findings, that the musical training can improve cognitive measures and academic skills in school children, debunking the work of Sala and Gobet, who found a negative finding in this area. Just for letting you know, I'm hiring right now. We just got funded for this project. So if you are interested to contribute to children's mathematical education through digital games, please contact me. You can see my Twitter account on the top. You can scan the QR code on the left side of this image and send me an email if you prefer. So thank you so much for your time, for your interest in my work, and hope you have a wonderful continuation of this conference. Thank you very much for your time. Bye.
Thank you, Flavia. Could you say a little more in your first experiment, you were talking about a randomized experiment. In the second one, I noticed there was the large baseline differences between the groups. Were you working with a special population of any kind, or why was the group so different to start?
Well, yes, that's the point. We had the control group was, well, in the second study, the control group was children with normal development, typical development, and the experimental group was exactly children with diagnosis of developmental dyscalculia or mathematical learning disorder. So that's why there was this, they were uneven. And that's the main thing. We want to see if the intervention could improve performance. And indeed, it improved for those who had room to grow, which means only the ones who had actually disorder initially.
Greg is asking, could you maybe elaborate a bit more on possible mechanisms by which the music might help with math skills?
Yes, we consider, first of all, of course, the main thing is definitely neuroplasticity. So in terms of real mechanisms, so all changes in the brain, but we consider that what happens in theoretical approach is that we trust on the 4E cognition. So we know that music is embedded, inactive, and all other elements. So it will help to always have multidimensional and multisensorial experience. So it fixes better the information and makes learning better and improving memory. And also another thing that is very important is that the games and the tasks we designed for the musical training, they are very strong in terms of emotional aspects. Children really enjoy it. So the pleasantness of the tasks brings an emotional, perfect state to learn a new information. So that's also important.
Susie had asked about the style of music you're working in when you're doing the music training.
Yes, in all my studies, I used non-instrumental musical training because it was designed for a developing country. So you don't have at the schools musical instruments available for all children. And so we used voice and sometimes body movements. And also the music teacher, it's very important to say we had a music teacher with formation in music. So it was not something random, it was a professional. And he could sing or he could play musical instruments. So let's say half of the sessions were listening a guitar or eventually a piano or sounds of a float. So they were getting access to those sounds in real time. And also we had some recorded sounds for specific tasks that we're trying to use for discrimination of exactly different in tones. So, yes.
So this was a nice collaboration between the classroom teacher and the music professional. Walter's asking about the third study. He says, I don't understand the point you were making about the results in that study with respect to baseline and persistence. Can you please explain that a little bit more?
Yes. And when I was watching again the video, I realized that my explanation was not clear enough, and I'm sorry, I apologize about this. What we saw is that the baseline, of course, the performance was very low in specific types of tasks. And then you had the intervention. So from the pre-test or baseline to the post-test, we found an improvement on performances. So that's, let's say, the main thing. But then the second part of the study is the follow-up measurement, which is after you finish the training. So that's exactly to see if there is a persistence of the effects of the training. And that's what we found, because as you could see, there was higher, the bars were higher for post-test experiences, but also they remain higher on the follow-up period. So that's why it was a positive finding. And I apologize for the wrong explanation before.
Thank you very much. Very interesting material. So time now to move on to our next talk.